From the Great Basin to the Rockies to the four corners of Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico. Dwayne Benson here for KMMU Main Street Media, Utah. From the Great Basin to the Rockies to the four corners of Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico. Dwayne Benson here for KMMU Main Street Media, Utah, coming to you live. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitter, and our website, kmmu.org. Please join our host, Dan Fillmore, for Let's Talk Utah's Dan the Eagle.
Everybody, to Dan the Eagle Show. As you can tell, my background is not the best right now. I'm traveling, but I'm excited to be here. Today we have a great show. We're going to talk about Trump's speech that he gave yesterday. And I have two amazing guests. Josh Carr, who's host of the Josh Carr Show. He will be joining us. He gives his political opinion, his commentary every day on the Josh Carr Show on YouTube. And then I have Tyler Jeffries, who is my only friend that I know personally who is not a diehard Republican. So I had to get some political diversity in here. So I will bring in Josh and I will bring in Tyler. How's it going, guys?
Good to be with you guys.
Yeah, feeling good right here. Glad to be.
Okay, great. Thanks for being here. So, Tyler, you haven't watched the speech, unfortunately, so I can't ask you this question. But, well, before we get into the speech, I guess I'll ask Tyler, how would you describe yourself politically?
Politically, I would say I'm probably about as moderate a person as you can find, but not in the sense that my views are moderate. I would say I have some pretty extreme conservative views, but also some pretty extreme liberal views that I think balance each other out pretty well. So. Say that question one more time.
I lost you. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So you would consider yourself a moderate because basically you can't get on board with some things with the Republicans or some things with Democrats?
Exactly.
Okay. What issues would you say you are extreme on one side and extreme on the other? Good idea of kind of what you think.
Yeah. I'm probably the most extreme, like conservative is probably my take on abortion is probably is very conservative, whereas my take on say like immigration, I would say is very liberal. And I have like takes on both sides. Economically, I know most people vote economically. I have my opinions on them, but I don't trust them. I'm not an economist, so I don't trust them well enough to say one way or another whether I think Republicans or Democrats are right.
Okay. So you'd say abortion then is your more like conservative view, but then immigration you're a lot more liberal on that.
Yeah,
one.
it's just
Those are like the two ones.
Yeah, it's like two examples.
Cool. And then Josh obviously is our resident radical. How would you describe your politics, Josh?
Well, that's right. I currently am married and have a daughter on the way, so that makes me about as radical as you can get, I would say, in the United States right now. I really am very conservative, both economically, fiscally, and socially as well. I share in common with Tyler. I think abortion is probably where I'm the most conservative, but economically, immigration, all of that, very conservative as well. I don't necessarily agree with the Republican Party on everything because the Republican Party I don't see as strictly conservative. But for the most part, I agree with about 95% of what Donald Trump does. And I think you could probably take any of my policies and you'd see me on the right.
And I think that's kind of where Tyler differs, is that I know Tyler doesn't like Trump. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm not, I want to say I hate him. And I also would agree with some stuff he's done. So I feel like I can see like some of the good things he does. I can agree with some things, but I disagree with a lot of his actions. And I'm not a huge fan of his presidency.
Okay, cool. This is perfect then. So we have someone who, doesn't love Trump, someone who does, and then there's me, of course, and I have to pretend like I have no opinion. So yesterday he gave a speech that was about an hour and 40 minutes. I'll be honest, by the end of it, I was like kind of done listening to it. Like it felt a little drawn out, but there were a lot of moments in there that I personally thought the speech was great. It was positive. It sent out a positive vision for the country. What did you think about Josh? What did you think? Like your favorite part, the most significant part? What stood out to you as you watched the speech?
Yeah, well, you're right about it being way too long. I think it felt a lot like movies nowadays, where you're like, you could have cut off about an hour of that, and it would have been just as good. And Donald Trump historically has very, very long speeches. But the best part, by far, for me, there were kind of two, I think, really big moments. The first was he brought in a cancer survivor, and this kid was, I think, 12 or 13, and he kind of praised this cancer survivor, and the reason why was because he wants to be in law enforcement one day. And so he kind of inducted him into the Secret Service. I thought it was a really touching moment. He talked about the importance of funding the police. It was really good politically. Like the optics were fantastic. You couldn't really disagree with it, because on the other side, you had Democrats that weren't clapping for this kid. And it just was a really bad moment for Democrats, really good for Donald Trump, politically speaking. But then, of course, policy wise, I, of course, support funding our police, making sure they're safe. And then, of course, to support children who, have the ambition to do that as well was fantastic. The other thing I will say is about a 15-second kind of little clip that's been going around, and maybe you'll play it, so I don't want to jump the gun too much, but Donald Trump says, oh, the Democrats have been saying for years that we needed legislation to make sure our border was secure. And then he says, it turns out we didn't need legislation. We just needed a new president. And that's absolutely true. If you look at the border numbers, the crossings and the encounters, historic lows, especially from what we saw over the last 4 years. I thought that was one of the most illustrative parts, because it's one of the best things that Donald Trump has done in his first 45 days in office.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with you. My favorite part was the part where the kid is inducted into the Secret Service. And yeah, we do have that clip. We're going to get to it in a second. So just because maybe some people in the audience haven't seen the speech, I definitely recommend doing it. And then Tyler as well hasn't seen it, so we're not going to be able to ask him that question. But the first clip that I wanted to play that was significant for me was Trump is talking about how he basically, the State of the Union has sadly become this thing where no matter what a president does, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, the other side just can't clap for. So I noticed this too, like when Biden was president, he'd get up there and he'd, talk about stuff that was positive, or, everyone could get behind, and lots of Republicans would stay seated, and then vice versa. And it's been one of those things that like no one has outright said, but Trump just straight up says it. And we'll show that clip, and then I'll get your guys' reaction here on the back end. So let me just pull this up really quick. Work. Sorry, usually I can just do this really easy. When I do this, can you guys see a different screen, or is it still just the regular screen?
I don't see anything.
Oh my gosh. Well, let me back out. Let me back in. Give me.
The coup is complete. He's gone.
Yep, we wanted to take over the show. One show is not enough. I wanted two.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Wait, so tell me, since we're waiting, tell me a little bit about your show, because I've met you. I don't know you very well. I don't know your don't know much about your show. So tell me about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I started a show 2 years ago. Right now I'm finishing up at BYU, so I'm a broadcasting major there. And
Mm,
over the last 2 years while I've been at BYU, I've just been kind of trying to grow my own thing on my own because I kind of realized I don't love working for people. I really like alternative media, so I'd rather just start my own, business and grow up from there. And as to be expected, it's very competitive. And so it's been in the last maybe 6 months, it started to pick up a lot, and it's been a fantastic experience.
that's awesome. That's cool. We might be getting him back.
Might be back.
So what's your at least while we're waiting for him, what's kind of like
Mhm.
your methodology or like your typical, like a typical show